Okay, we're good to go. Thank you everyone for coming along today to our webinar. We've got our guest speaker here, Brian Dunphy of Dawn Meat. So thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be hosting you today and doing a deeper dive. I just wanted to say that we're going to keep this as an interactive chat between Brian and myself. If anyone has any questions whatsoever, please do feel free to pop them in the chat within this, and we will address them and come back to you individually with the answers. So I want to start off by introducing myself. So my name's Lisa Taylor and I work for Insight Consulting, and we're an end-to-end data strategy company, consultancy, and we work with businesses to deliver and design data strategies in all levels of organisations. And we work very closely with our customers from as is to where they want to be in their data journey. Brian, can I hand over to you? Is that okay to give a little intro?
Yeah, hi, Brian Dunphy is my name. I work for Dawn Meats, meat company based in the south of Ireland, but we've plants in the UK and north of Ireland and sales offices throughout Europe also. My history here, I'm working for the company for 17 years. I lead the BI and the development team, and would have worked with Click and various other tools over the last maybe 10, 12 years, I suppose. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Brian. So the purpose of today was for Brian and I to have a discussion around why and how you looked and modernised your sales planning processes there at Dawn Meats. So I guess to kick it off, Brian, if that's okay, could you just explain a little bit more about what were your sales processes before and how did you do it in, before you actually modernised it? So what did that look like?
Yeah, so I suppose like a lot of places we were spreadsheet based, and we had a joint venture with another meat company, Dunbia, probably 5 years ago, and that brought its own complications because Dawn Meats did it one way, our retail plant in Wales, and our other plant in Preston and north of Ireland had their own systems. So we initially moved everybody onto the same spreadsheet based system, but it just wasn't a nice experience. It was clunky, prone to errors, typos, hard to keep items in. You're just adding a row to a spreadsheet, and some of our accounts maybe have 250, 200 lines on them, and you're updating a year's forecast ahead, so it just wasn't a nice experience. That led to errors, so people didn't trust the data. So we didn't. While we tried to use reporting tools to grab that information centrally, there was a lack of trust in the numbers. So people always had, their own different departments would have been keeping their own forecasts. So sure. The meat team, the commercial team were maintaining a forecast, but then the packaging teams and the ingredients teams and the meat buying teams were keeping their own forecasts. So it meant that when there was an issue, nobody knew who was to blame or whose number they were using. So yeah, and also one of the things was how do you improve your accuracy on forecasting if you don't know how accurate you are? So yeah, there was no number. Somebody could never say, oh well, look, on this account we are operating at this accuracy, at this trust in the numbers. So one of the key things of our project to modernize it was to actually know what that number is at all times, so then we can act accordingly in order to improve it, or at least investigate why there was a miss on accuracy, and then learn from that and try to do better in future. So yeah, that was probably the background to the project becoming on our project register.
Oh wow, that that does sound like trying to migrate two organisations together, and I guess both organisations have their own way of doing things, and then you've got obviously the manual element of people, a human element of people putting data in to Excel spreadsheets. That does sound like it would have been a complete you know, complex situation to be dealing with. So when you set out on your journey per se, obviously you recognise that you needed to address this and get that single version of the true numbers for everybody, so that you could then, you know, make sure that you were all on the same page and working correctly. So when you set out on that evaluation process, what would you say were the sort of main pain points that you wanted to address that were kind of like, you know, non-negotiable in terms of the solution had to meet that criteria on day one?
Yeah, so I suppose one of the things was you know, to reduce the amount of waste. So
Right.
we're a massive company, even though it's kind of low key, because we're not like retail. So we're not like branded product, but we supply a lot of the major retailers in the UK. So everything scales. You know, so we had massive waste costs related to forecasting misses. You know, for packaging and labels and ingredients and meat costs. And just not all of that is down to forecasting. You know, there's minimum order quantities on ingredient products and stuff like that. But also we supply ourselves. So our primary business supply our retail business. So a miss up here on the retail side filters down to our primary production, and a lot of meat products have you know, date ranges, so 28 days aging, and so knowing what's happening next week isn't good enough. You know, to do a steak product or a lamb leg or whatever, you needed to know 28 days ago. So there was commercial reasons as well, like that. You know, you just don't have product. You can't magic it out of thin air. So
Sure.
also, like, just the time wasting. So just somebody going into a spreadsheet just wasn't a nice experience, and they found, like, they'd admit themselves they were procrastinating on it, and it would be the last thing that they wanted to do was go in and update this, you know, 250 row spreadsheet, and also, like, no help. So they tended to just drag numbers across, you know, and take. Oh yeah, look, it's 10,000 packs. So there was no statistical help on that forecasting, and that's probably the main impacts that we wanted, was make it easy, for the people to enter it, so that there was a nice experience. They had a nice user interface, and they wanted to go in and you know, get stuck in. And reduce the waste from the business side. Also, a big one for us was that accuracy number. So to be able to say, here, look, you're at 80%, you're at 70%. You know, nobody knew what that was. So they were kind of the non-negotiables that we had going into the project. Like, it needed to be easy. We needed to know how accurate we were, and ultimately, then from the business side, we needed to reduce waste costs. And one of the, I suppose, because the tools we used, we were able to give visibility to and integrate with our production planning systems. So that was one of the things, was like, can this system talk to this one? So people don't have to, like, you know, run a report over here and type the number in again on our primary system. So that was one of the other things that we were able to achieve, was that those two systems could talk to each other. So,
and I guess as well, being able to have a single view, you know, of all of that data in one place, so everyone's accessing the same version of the truth as well. I can imagine that being extremely important.
Yeah. So in those meetings, like, the sales directors would have insisted, right, this is the number that we're working off. You know, this guy says we're going to do 10,000 packs, and that translates. So we had, like, bill of materials built into the system that said that translates to X amount of finished product. And like, some of our other teams still work off their own spreadsheet based systems. Like, that's a future project, but at least their input into their own departmental system is our forecast number from the commercial forecasting system. So at least they're still working off the same 10,000 pack number, rather than maintaining their own forecasts themselves. So yeah, that was one key thing, was at least if a number is wrong, it's wrong for everybody. Not, people aren't trying to second guess.
And in terms of obviously seasonally, I can imagine that, you know, having a really robust budget and forecasting system allows you to be looking at trends and analysis around that, in terms of, like, I'm sure there's certain times of the year, I know we've spoken before, and I know like Easter and Christmas and stuff like that, that you'll see those spikes in demand, so you have to
Yeah.
really plan for that. So it's going to be really beneficial to be able to really analyze, you know, on the front end, you know, and look back on the data, isn't it?
Yeah, so when we have the budgets, you know, we've built a budgeting system into the forecasting also. So, you know, the team can look at all times and go, well, what did we budget for at the start of the year, and then how are we performing versus that budget?
Yeah,
But yeah, like when you mentioned at Easter, like 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out, we need to be planning for what promotions are being run at Easter, so that we can, the earlier we can get that information to the packaging and the ingredients teams, you're avoiding, like, you know, premium prices on labeling and packaging and delivery costs of getting stuff shipped down, next day delivery in order to meet demand. And so yeah, it's
yeah,
all
sure. Now, I can imagine that's a big impact, the cost of, you know, when you're having to, things are happening last minute, for sure. So could you just explain a little bit more about the actual sort of solution that you chose, and what actually happened in terms of the implementation and stuff, if
yeah.
possible,
So
Brian? That'd be great to give us an insight into.
yeah, so we use Click, you know, and various other tools, but we also use Click primarily for our BI reporting and dashboarding. So we kind of wanted something that would work with in there, so that we had control of the reporting side of it. Um, so we worked with Infinity to develop the solution, which basically allowed us to. The way I think of it is, with Click, you can grab data from everywhere
Yeah,
and bring it together, and Infinity allows you to manipulate that data and enter. Um, but I suppose both tools are blank slates, so they give a project team the flexibility to work, to develop the solution that's required, rather than being. I suppose that's one thing we didn't want, was to bring in a big planning tool
yeah,
that, and we needed to change our processes in order to work to how that planning tool was
yeah.
built. So we want to say, well, this is the solution we need. How do we build it? And then have we the right tools in order to do that? So that's where we came to that solution.
Sure. Oh, that's brilliant. So in terms of the implementation process, how did you kind of go into that? You know, how did you plan that? How did that sort of pan out for the
Um,
team?
yeah, I suppose one of the key things was bringing kind of a champion group of the people who would actually be on the front line entering the forecast. So the commercial teams and the commercial managers. Um, and we set it up as, like, very early. We kind of decided, look, we don't know what the final solution is going to look like, but we know what we needed to do. So we adopted
Yeah,
kind of an agile approach to the development. You know, a couple of months kind of specking it out, multiple calls with the project team and the development teams, to get an idea of what was required. Um, and then we had weekly calls to kind of fine tune that and make sure that we were, you know, showing demos, and that we were along the right kind of path. Um, so then I suppose we implemented a prototype, probably maybe 10 weeks, 3 months in,
yeah,
and got those champion users to use that and feedback with changes and stuff. And I think that really helped from a project implementation point of view, from for adoption, is that it wasn't kind of big bad IT pushing this solution on them. It was their project. You know, it was what they
yeah,
wanted, and we were developing it based on them. So in the end, they felt they had ownership of it, rather than it being. You know, I always say that, like, IT have never pushed a project in somewhere. It always needs to be kind of pulled from the business, to say, yeah, look, this is the solution we need, and this is what. And a lot of cool features that we have come from those initial prototypes. There's some were requested as nice to haves, and when we look back now, they're not actually using them, so they were just we could have left off some work, but to be
don't
fair,
know if you don't try.
yeah, exactly, and to be fair, a lot of it did stick as well. So yeah, things like being able to just reduce and based on store numbers, so that you can just block book and say, right, well, we know that these 20 products have a while we want to use the numbers from last year, we know that they're going to be 50% higher. So things like that,
Yeah.
they do use just shortcuts and stuff to make things easier.
Yeah,
like
sure.
one of the issues we have is substitute products. So the algorithm will work out what the suggested forecast is, because that's, I suppose, one of the I forgot to mention earlier on the kind of non-negotiables was to move to kind of a suggest and accept model of forecasting, so that people aren't just starting with a blank slate, that we're kind of using statistical algorithms to suggest numbers that the commercial team then say, yeah, that looks reasonable, or they adjust based on promotions or based on intuition or whatever. So, like, yeah, switching to that kind of mindset of being able to see what the system is saying, which is pretty clever. So that's like
extremely.
so we basically look at all of the sales and based on the criteria. So we bring in weather data, so that has a big impact on the barbecue ranges, and that all drives that forecast. So whether products are highly correlated to the recency, like the last 6 weeks, or whether they're highly correlated to last year. And like we flag products to say whether they're year-round products or spring-summer products. And that all would have not been in the initial scope, maybe. That just came out of, as we went through it, we said, do you know what, these products have an uplift. So barbecue products are say stewing beef and stuff like that in the winters, you want that to more heavily weight your sales forecasts. So but I suppose one of the key things was getting that prototype out there, getting people using the system, and we kind of got value from it immediately. There was people just switched over straight away and kind of said, yeah, well, this is what I want to do.
And that'll all be about the fact that you did have that champion group, because you've got those people who are there with their colleagues every day, and if they're, like you said earlier, if they're bought into the whole and they believe it's their system, and their solution as well, they'll soon see it's making their lives a lot easier to be able to automate and digitize that end-to-end process. And then they can tell their colleagues, and if someone gets stuck, they'll be happy to show them how to do things. And I've seen that across the board throughout my career of, we would always suggest that approach, because I think it is really key. So in terms of when you went through that prototype process and you immediately saw the value, which is brilliant, how does the system evolve? How has it evolved now? So, what you were mentioned also earlier about, there's something nice to have. The guys were saying from the offset, oh, we need it to be like this, that you're not actually using. So are you going to be taking that, you also alluded to it earlier as well, to other parts of the business? Because obviously it is an enterprise-wide solution that you've implemented. And there's as you said, there's got to be lots of areas. Has it evolved and moved around? And
the main part itself hasn't changed a lot, which is good. They haven't come back. It's kind of ticking the boxes. What we've done around the edges is added recipes, basically for like a meat bill of materials. And we added, so initially we started with beef products only, and then we added lamb, and then we added other meat products, so that spits out what the requirement is from our primary side, because our primary business feeds our retail business. So even though it's part of the same group, they're different business units. So, but the demand from the primary side is pulled from the retail side. So on the reporting side, we would have done a lot of things like using end printing to distribute weekly exception reports and accuracy reporting. So there's a kind of an accuracy Bible that goes out every week that analyzes the 4-week accuracy and gives the sites a score and gives the accounts within that a score. So we have a little trophy that we put on the front page of the email, and people, they print it out and stick it up on the notice board, and it's like a bit of crack, like where the accounts are competing against each other, just to see. You don't want to be bottom of the league every week or whatever. So that's probably where the most of the development has happened. On the future, like, we've developed this for the UK retail side. We also have an Irish retail business. So the plan is to look at copying that system over. Again, because it's a solution that we've developed, we can do that. It's just a project cost, really. It's not like there won't be a massive licensing implication, or it's not a completely different instance or whatever. We know where the data is coming from, so we can kind of it's just a project to redevelop that for the Irish side.
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's fabulous, isn't it? If you can just, duplicate or extend out what you've already done to address a whole new business as such. So that's really, really good news. And as I said, please do continue to put questions for myself and Brian in the chat, everybody. I want to wrap that up there, because I think, have you got anything else you'd like to add, Brian?
No, I don't think so. Thanks very much, Lisa.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for coming along. And it's been really, really great to talk to you about this. As I say, any questions, please do give me or Brian a message in the chat, and we'll address all of those questions individually. Thank you very much, and have a nice day, everybody.